Well, to make sense of all you've heard so far from my guest, I'm now being joined in the studio by the journalist, political commentator, and Arise News analyst, Dr. Constance Ikokwu. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. You would have heard from my guest how he was able to tackle this government-labor relations. I mean, here's the presidency saying that the NLC protest was politicized. And of course, NLC went ahead to collapse the protest from 2 days to 1. And people are beginning to ask questions. How true is it that this was politicized? And by who? And why is this government crying in such a situation when people in this same government, I mean, when they were in opposition, used a similar situation to attack a ruling government then? I mean, former President Goodluck Jonathan in 2012.
Okay, Sumner, there's a lot of pedestrian talk going on. So let's look at the challenges from the lens of a broader perspective, right? So to put it bluntly, we are in trouble. And this conclusion is based on indications that we are being attacked and suffocated on 3 fronts. 1, food. 2, fuel. And 3, finance. I don't know if the government understands this and the connections, but it is deep and this is what is going on. These 3 elements are the basis, powerful combination, and the basis upon which we live and we thrive. And so if these 3 are failing at the same time, we are heading to a calamity that, a calamity of gigantic proportions. That's where we're heading. Now let's come back and make the connection. Since the removal of fuel subsidy, we have seen how the cost of food has changed, on an onward trajectory. And you talk to people that they're complaining and telling you that they do not have the money to afford the food, even if it's available. And we do not need anybody to tell us. I go to market, so I see that happening. Number 2, transport. So it's also affecting transportation. I fueled my vehicle a couple of days ago, and I saw that there was a slight increase in the cost of fuel. So everybody's being affected negatively in the cost of transport, and that shows in your pocket. Then 3, finance. When you see all of this happening, you now realize that the purchasing power of the people are being diminished every day. So food, fuel, finance, that's where we are, and that is terrible. And so what to do? There's no president that this will not be a difficult situation. Whether it's President Tinubu, whoever it is not an easy time in Nigeria. However, in times of great upheavals, leaders have become heroes. Why? Because they have taken the time to carefully manage and steer the ship away from the downturn. However, for you to be able to do that, you have to have 3 key elements: character, competence, and capacity. We then ask the question, does our president and his team have these 3 things? It's every success that you achieve, capacity, and competence. Okay. Every success that you achieve is dependent on this. Okay, let's say the president doesn't have it. Does his team have it? Are they up to standard? Do they even know what they are doing? Do they believe that they can make any difference? Can they really make any difference? And if they cannot, is there a way to hire your way out of this? Is there a way to look around the world and talk to people and see how you can hire to get yourself out of this mess? Because our lives are dependent on those people who are manning the ship today, and they have to pull us out from this hole. That's where we are.
All right, interesting submission there, especially for the food, fuel, and finance you're talking about. But my point of view here is that when the government accuses the labor unions of having their protests politicized, it means that it presupposes that they already know those who are behind it. How come it's quite difficult for them to mention the opposition parties or leaders in the opposition or those who are opposed to this? And I mean, from the government statement through its spokesman, it fell short of just calling the labor unions insensitive at this point in time for going on protest. So what do you make of such a scenario? Could it be that it also the government statement also affected Labour and made it to actually cut back on its protest? Could this protest have been seen as being insensitive by the NLC?
I think we're used to a lot of talk in Nigeria, and it does not do us any good. Labour has its problems. The government they also have their problems, especially on the side of the government, a problem of leadership. You are a leader. Whatever is happening, everything is dependent on how you are able to handle it and manage it. On the side of Labour, they are being accused of being compromised. And that's why you are seeing that the entire Labour family is falling apart. There is no longer unity. Some are going this way, the other people are going that way. So people are saying, are we even safe when our Labour leaders, who are supposed to be speaking for us, are not having a united front? On the part of the government, it's more important to do the work than to be screaming and to be accusing people. You might have some intelligence information. However, that's why your government, you use that intelligence information to move the cart from where it is to the other. I'll give an example. You remember the story of the president of Argentina, Javier, I think Milei is his surname.
Yeah.
He came into power last year, 2023, late in the year. As we are speaking, he has managed to balance the budget for the first time in 12 years. And then he is going further ahead to criminalize deficit in government. So if you're the one that is causing deficit, whether you're printing trillions of naira or whatever currency in the CBN and everybody is pilfering it, no, it's not going to happen. That's vision, that's leadership. Yes, Nigeria might be more complex. You know, we are a big country. However, there's nothing that is impossible. Whatever we are facing is man-made and can be tackled. If you have the vision, if you have the right leadership, and if you believe and know that you're there for a purpose, and then you carry out the purpose for which you are on that seat.
All right, and from what the government led by President Tinubu is saying, it takes me back to actually what happened in 2012. And there's this letter that President Tinubu had written to former President Goodluck Jonathan, who was president then. And President Tinubu didn't really spare President Goodluck Jonathan, because he used some very, very strong words. And some of those words I had said to my guests to actually comment on. And I want you to comment on this. Now, in that letter by Bola Tinubu, who was the leader of ACN then, to President Goodluck Jonathan, he had said this, that because, and I'm quoting him now, that because he's slave to wrong-headed economics, the people will become enslaved to greater misery. This crisis will bear his name and will be his legacy. The people now pay a steep tax for voting him into office. The removal of the subsidy is the, quote, Jonathan tax. The situation shows that ideas count more than personalities. People may occupy office, but how that person performs depends on the ideas that occupy his mind. I'm beginning to ask, what happened to the ideals set out by President Tinubu? Could it be that it's sweet being an opposition leader? And when you get into power, you see that governance is different, because right now he seems to be pointing as opposition candidates as being responsible for wanting to, sponsor protests here and there. Well,
he was governor in Lagos State. The Nigerian state is a bigger fish to fry. It's much, much bigger. This thing is deep, it's complicated. You have vested interests that are fighting and sabotaging to make sure that the status quo is maintained. So Nigeria is not easy to govern. However, it is still possible to govern it properly if you have the right set of people. So yes, former governor of Lagos State, now President Bola Tinubu, he was, right. Many people at that time felt that it was the time to remove fuel subsidy because of the corruption. Again, subsidy is not a problem. It is the corruption that it's associated with it. And you then ask the question, why can't the government not deal with the corruption? Okay, now he is the president. That's a long time ago. He was much younger. Today he's in his 70s. He's not the same person. And I think Nigeria is even more difficult at this time.
Well, not up to 70, I think 60 something.
No, Tinubu is more than 60.
Well,
what? I think it's 70s.
All right.
Okay, whatever it is,
yeah.
he's no longer young, right? But the point is that when you try to analyze these so-called leaders, what you see is that most of them hold pseudo power. And what do I mean by that? It looks like they don't have the actual power. They are holding it in trust for someone else. And that is why you hear accusations of being slaves to maybe Western powers or international powers or foreign government. And how do you explain that? At this point in time in 2023, Nigeria is not part of BRICS. And I'm going somewhere. There are 3 powers in Africa: Egypt, South Africa, Nigeria. The other 2, they've run into BRICS. The estimation is that by 2050, the BRICS will control the majority of the economy in the world. So people are seeing and watching. Governments are looking at it. So they've gone into BRICS. BRICS has expanded from, what are the countries? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. There are so many other countries that have joined them.
There are several applications before it for several countries.
Exactly. So there's something going on. There are alignments and realignments happening on the world stage. And you need to be part of it. Nigeria is left out there, here in the code. You are more prone to manipulations, especially if you have problems personally, character, competence. But the point is that economically, we might have to be looking where others are already looking, because the world is changing on the global stage and we cannot keep doing what we are doing. Okay. If you keep doing something and it's not working, then you have to change it and see whether you can get better results. I think this is very critical as we go forward. As Nigeria, why are we not part of BRICS?
Well, no finger pointing. If I may summarize, that's what you're saying.
Blame.
Yeah, there should be no finger pointing.
No. We're not blaming anybody here. This is serious discussion.
Yeah.
We are only unpacking the issues so that hopefully it can help us to see better.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, that no finger pointing by government against the opposition and all of that. Just go out there and look for partnership on how to strengthen the economy. Well, President Tinubu is actually 71 years, so I had to
You see, I was right.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very controversial, his age and all of that.
Well, they said he's even older than that.
Well, I mean, during the campaigns, it was a very huge issue. Now, just before I let you go, can we say that Labour is actually losing its integrity before the Nigerian people? Can we say that with the Labour Union, wanting to call off strike before the strike even begins, or when it says the strike is going to be for so days, it will just do one day, or a protest one day, and then it calls off the protest or the strike? Would we say that the Labour Union in Nigeria is actually losing grounds before the Nigerian people?
The general feeling is that something is amiss. And again, people have also said that the so-called Labour leaders are compromised, or maybe compromised. Let's not just allege. I mean, this is in the streets, right? And that is why you see this back and forth. You're not sure where they stand. Yes, it's important that they, make a protest, organize a protest and all of that. So, but if you're going to do something, take it all the way down. I think that
they wouldn't be deemed insensitive by the government if they continue.
So the thing is, government has a responsibility, Labour has a responsibility. So government, do your job, and then Labour, if you want to do something, do it. At the end of the day, you're fighting for the people, on the side of people. The government is already on its own. So it's a critical job that they are doing, and I think people will hope that they do it better from now onwards. All
right, we must thank you so much, our own Dr. Constance Ikokwu, for helping us to understand these issues. And I can tell you that, I mean, being in opposition is sweeter and easier for you to be making noise. But once you get into government, I mean, it's something else.
Sumner, you're very correct. It's easy to talk.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering what would have happened to a Peter Obi presidency too. I mean, if he would have been battling similar things. But being in government is a different ball game. And of course, the progressive of those years are beginning to really find out that being in governance, I mean, it's not really easy being in government. And of course, we continue to support the Nigerian government and support the Nigerian people as we all work together as one people to get out of this economic turmoil. Because, I mean, everyone is feeling the heat. And of course, our pockets are getting, the holes in our pockets are getting deeper day by day. Well, that's how it's been for this edition of Arise Primetime. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Sumner Sambo.